What is up, you guys? Welcome to Illumination Lab. My name is Justin, and today we are diving into a project I've been excited for called Zilla Energy. So this is a mock brand where we are tasked with creating designs for an energy drink line. So in this video, we'll break down the can designs, explore a few creative choices behind them, and then we'll also take a deep dive into the Cinema4d scene as well. So we'll cover a lot of the materials that were used, some of the lighting, and a few other things as well too. So I'm excited for this one. This is gonna be a fun one today. So without further delay, let's get into it. Alright, so jumping right into a few can designs here. We're going to start with this one, Kaiju number 13 here. So what we have is 3 different renders here from Cinema4d. So I kind of use these as my product shots for this specific one. And then in the top left here, we have just the overall design that I made that I wrapped around a can. And so looking at the overall design here, for each one of these, I'm going to have some sort of kaiju, and then of course a flavor, and then some sort of color that kind of matches with the overall look here. So with this one specifically, we went with more of a yellow and black here, just to kind of both match with the kaiju and also kind of match with the flavor as well too. So the overall design is going to stay pretty consistent with a lot of the different cans. We have, of course, the kaiju here in the middle, center stage, and then we also have some of the different marketing material. And so you can see on this left hand side, 0 artificial colors, 0 calories per can. And then at the bottom, we get to share some of the ingredients. So 420 milligrams of caffeine, which is quite a bit here. And then you have 200 milligrams of alpha GPC, which is a nootropic. And then at the very bottom here, we have how much ounces per can is in there. And then off to the right, we have an area for our nutritional facts, and then at the bottom right, we do have a barcode of some sort as well too. So I just tried to kind of make this as realistic as possible, as if we were showing these designs to a company, or if we were tasked with the overall design of this series. So diving into the kaiju here, so I have kind of a larger, darker figure here, and then I kind of went with more of a sand theme. So in the background here, we kind of have some different sand waves, and then on this right hand side here, we have this called Stormbringer. I just try to incorporate all of that just to kind of tie everything together. And then when we're looking at the renders here, we have a direct front shot here right on the right hand side. On the left hand side, we kind of have a glance at what the left side of the front can is going to look like. And then right over here as well, this one is just kind of more of the right side of the can here. What I wanted to make sure with a lot of these product shots is just to make sure that I had some pretty good reflections here on the can, and then I also made sure that I threw in a bump material as well too, just kind of give it more of a overall rugged look here. So I think that kind of matches with the overall style of the design, just kind of adding in some sort of rough bump here in Cinema4d. So yeah, this is a Pineapple Planet. So next up we have this one here. So this is Kaiju number 74. And then you have the name. I adjusted the name based off of the kind of the overall size of the kaiju, so I kind of put it at the top here. And then this one is Vortex Berry, and so as you can see, a lot of the same kind of marketing lettering as well. So you see both the lettering on the side and on the bottom here, similar to this last one we saw. And then with this, I was just kind of playing around with few different shots here. So these were actually the 3 initial shots I had, and then I kind of honed these in a little bit more and kind of was able to figure out exactly what kind of angle I wanted for each one of these shots. So this one is the front, and then we have kind of a view on the left side of the can, and then just kind of a different angle here with this last one where it's kind of like a upward view here. And so you get some really cool bump here, especially with the name Frostcore here. You get a really nice bump, and then of course this vortex berry as well too. You kind of get more of a textured feel here. The only downside that I have with this one is sometimes it can kind of get a little muddied here, so especially in this area it's just not as clear. So maybe either just kind of fixing the focal length, or even just kind of fixing that area so it's not as muddied up. But overall I think it was a pretty good attempt here. And then I went with the white and blue just to kind of be more of the opposite to our last one here that was kind of a black and yellow. So all right, so jumping into the next one. This one is probably my personal favorite here. Kaiju number 46. The name is Virex, and then the flavor is Toxic Grape. What I like about these renders specifically is they have some pretty good lighting, and it really kind of helps push out the texture, especially on this right hand side. You can kind of see the roughness and then some key highlights as well too, so that really kind of helps kind of push that rugged or rough look here. And then so again we have that frontal shots, something that is kind of leaning a little bit more to the right here, and then kind of the left side as well too. With this I wanted to do some sort of different type of kaiju, something that wasn't standing completely vertical, so I just wanted to kind of mix it up a little bit with this one. And then with the toxic grape theme, I kind of tied that in with kind of this poisonous gas wrapping around this kaiju here. So I just want to kind of make sure that the overall scene of where the kaiju was very complete, as far as the left hand side goes all the way to the very end of the right hand side before the nutritional facts here. So that is that one. And then next up we have Volcanus, which is charred red, Kaiju number 17. This one is probably the least strongest one that I have, just because of just the overall renders here. Some of the lighting with this one and just the overall reflections didn't really work well. I try to go for a little bit more of a grittier look here, especially with having charred red. I wanted to kind of almost have it look like it was slightly burned here, and so I think it is you know, quite a lot to look at, especially with some of these renders here. And then of course with this kaiju I tried to get more of a like a darker red, or just like a warm toned kaiju here to kind of fit in with that kind of fiery look here. So overall pretty interesting attempt at like a cherry, but I think there is definitely some room for improvement there. Next up I have one of my other favorites here, Kaiju number 39. This one is kind of cool. I think I like it just because I'm a pretty big fan of green overall, and so this was kind of like a jungle theme. Jungle Rock is the name here, and then the flavor is Giga Melon. This is kind of like a honeydew melon flavor here, so just a little interesting with that flavor. And then as we kind of look at the renders here, we kind of see that roughness from that bump that we made. So you can definitely kind of see that on the right hand side here in this render, and then not so much on this left side here. And then we also get a pretty good view here with this render. And so again, I really wanted to make sure that you had some really cool highlights here, especially adding in like a bloom effect to really help kind of make it shine a little bit more here. So, and then lastly we have all 5 together, and so you can kind of see them left to right here, and then just the entire overall series in general here. And so in making these, I made this within a program here. And then as far as the bump map here, I took some elements. So these are some of the examples of the bump maps that I use. So very similar in design, however it's black and white here for bump maps. And then looking at these bump maps, of course, with all of this white lettering here, this is going to be your tallest as far as the bump goes. And then of course, as we go back into like the darker colors, these won't have as much effect when it comes to your bump here. So you're going to see the whites even more. So when making a bump map, whatever you want to really have some sort of embossments, you really want to make sure that you are doing just kind of like a pure white here, just so it really kind of pops out for you. So, and then again, you could kind of really see that, especially with our Vortex Berry flavor, how that both the name, the Frostgore, and the Vortex Berry has that embossment to the can. So it kind of adds a little bit more depth and even just like a texture feel when it comes to the actual product itself. So for most of these bump maps, I kept it rather simple and just wanted to have certain highlights here where I had some sort of embossment in the can. I will say some of them did get a little crazy, especially the Toxic Grape with just so much going on, and with the Toxic Cloud as well too. It kind of got a little bit busy, so I did have to go back in and kind of adjust those depending on what it looked like within the render view here. So but that's pretty much it for just the overall designs. Let's hop into Cinema4d and kind of go over the scene here. So alright, so jumping into Cinema4d, first off, we have this animation here. So that animation you saw at the beginning here, this was kind of the overall setup. So I had this camera here within the null, and then I'm just kind of playing it here just so you can get an idea of what it looks like. So I just have this camera kind of zoom in, and I kind of moved the can as well too, and so I just kind of had a few different shots where I was kind of zooming into the can, zooming out. Pretty simple stuff here, and then I just did a lot of editing once I rendered all of that out here. So pretty simple there. And then actually going into our settings here, I'll just click on our camera, and then I'll just jump over to our motion tab. And then how Cinema4d has it set up is you will get a little wobble, especially with the camera and this stick figure as well. So I just dropped that down to 0 so we get kind of a more controlled shot here. So I put those down to 0. All right, so jumping into our materials here. So first up, we'll do our Vortex Berry. So again, just kept it pretty simple with this one. So I have this texture here. So that is our overall design. And then we have our bump map, and then our texture for that bump map, which again is black and white. And then going into the next one, we have our Toxic Grape one here. So this is the overall look again. And then again, very simple, very similar setup here where I have the black and white texture bump and then our overall material. So I just kept it rather simple, and that kind of shows actually how much you can do with such a kind of a simple setup here. So I just kept that pretty consistent with all of these here. And then with the background, I did some sort of texturized background here I found within Grayscale Gorilla. So you could kind of see some of the textures here within the render view at the bottom. We do have a bokeh activated within our cameras here, so you really don't see a ton of what's going on in the backgrounds, just because we are kind of focused more on the cans in general. All right, so next up, we're just going to jump into our lighting here. So I have our Giga Melon flavor here. And then so with most of this lighting here, I kind of kept it the same for most of them, besides the cherry one here, just because the cherry one had a slightly different texture versus some of these other ones here. So this is what it looks like without any lighting here. So rather flat. And then I do have this light on the left hand side, so this light kind of fills most of the can, especially our kind of focal area as well. So it covers most of the can, and it kind of gives us a nice sense of depth since it's kind of covering only a portion of the can and leaving the right side somewhat dark here. So that is our initial light here. So turning on this light, which is just slightly right to our original lights, that really helps kind of drive in light to that left hand side, and again keeping that right hand side rather dark. And then I'm just going to turn on our dome lights, and so the dome light is kind of nice because it gives us more of a ambient lighting setup here, so kind of acts as like a large diffuse light here. Our last one here, we have this one, and this one's nice because it's really kind of giving us quite a bit of light here. So there is this light, which is pretty strong here. It's at 100 for our intensity, so that's kind of giving us a nice highlight on our floor here. And since the light is behind our can, it's actually pushing a lot of these really cool highlights both on the left and right hand side here. And then with our bump is creating a lot of that embossment and just overall texture, so you can kind of see that within the left and right hand side here, kind of giving us more of that grittier effect here. So we're using both of the material embossment and then also the lighting here as well to help really drive that look here. So pretty nice here. Somewhat simple here with the lights, not a ton going on, but with the specific placement, it really kind of helps out with making it look a little bit more professional and unique here. And then what I'll do is I'll just undo our bump here. So when I take off this bump here, you can see that it is a lot more smooth and not really as lifelike here. And so I'm just going to kind of plug that back in, and we get more of a gritty overall look here. So again, rather simple here, but kind of all of these together helps contribute to the overall look here. So all right, so jumping into our settings here. So with this, I shot this in a 2K, and then I had medium to sometimes high bucket quality here. And then we'll just go into our other settings. So I had this LUT in place. So actually, let me bring this out here, and I'm just going to turn this off. So you get this very bright, kind of blown out look here. So this LUT kind of brings in a little bit more contrast here. And then we do have our bloom on, so that kind of helps bring some of those post effects, that kind of shine that is on the can here. So you could kind of adjust those settings as needed, but I had both the bloom and the LUT on here to really help with the overall polish of each render here. So but that was pretty much it for this one. Definitely let me know what you guys think. I had a lot of fun with this one, especially just creating the overall labels in general. It was kind of cool trying to match up each kaiju with a specific flavor and a specific color, and then bringing it over to Cinema4d and actually rendering it out on a can kind of brought it to life a little bit more. So had a lot of fun with this one. Let me know what you guys think. You guys have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you on the next one.